Screen Watcher, welcome back to another Double Take review, where we give you our 2-take double dose injection of pop culture criticism, because that's what George Lucas ordered. Just a heads up, the first half of the show will be spoiler free for your convenience, at which point we're gonna punch it into light speed spoiler territory, where we put a big warning on the screen just to let you know, all courtesy of our in-house spoiler monkeys. Without further ado, action. What are we watching?
Solo, Star Wars story.
Punch it, Chewie!
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Get ready.
Solo, a Star Wars story. The second standalone side story that Lucasfilm has done since the Disney acquisition. I guess I most want to know, did you like it?
I guess I don't have a simple answer. One thing that I can tell you is I was watching the movie and I kept asking myself, who is this movie for? Who asked for this movie? I mean, at its best, it's 2 hours, 15 minutes of your time that, you know, it's a Star Wars related film. So there are characters that you're nostalgic about, so you want to see that. But at its worst, it's just a mess of a movie. It's like a dumpster fire that you're watching. And I kept wondering, what happened here? Why nothing makes sense? Why nothing is clicking?
You know what, man? I 100% agree with you. I wasn't going to say a dumpster truck on fire, but it's definitely messy. It's a Star Wars movie, so it's really tough. It's really tough to come at it that way. But it definitely has some moments where, as a Star Wars fan, which a lot of us are, we just like to see. It makes us happy. But there's a lot of things in there, too. It's kind of like... And then, of course, you know, some stuff happened behind the scenes that we'll get into.
Right.
But it was jumbled.
Well, let's talk about the casting. You remember they were saying that, you know, the guy who's going to play Solo, apparently he wasn't that good, and there were a lot of talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's all true.
Really?
It is all true.
He didn't stick out to me as much as the headlines did regarding him.
But he just seemed to struggle. He was as charismatic as a carrot.
Oh, yeah. For Han Solo, you needed somebody who was way more like able to jump off the screen. And I just feel like what he did was passable.
Yeah, I mean, barely passable.
Not to talk a whole lot of crap about him, because I think, in general, Khaleesi and Donald Glover and Alden Ehrenreich, I thought they all did pretty good. All the supporting cast I didn't really like. There's a character played by what's his name? I want to make sure I get his name right. It's the guy that did Iron. He directed Iron Man. Is it Jon Favreau? I think he did a voice of.
Oh.
I think he did a voice of one of the characters.
Okay.
But if I'm correct, I think it was one of the CG characters. I thought that was not, and it's not even on him. I feel like the CG character and him were not quite matched up. He probably didn't do mocap for it. He probably just came into the VO booth and did his thing. But the whole time that character was talking, I was like, God, I hate you. I hope you die. Oh.
Spoilers.
Wait, they don't know. They don't know yet. They don't know.
All right, well,
maybe we could
block
it out there.
Well, one thing that I can definitely tell you is when it came to the opening sequence, I thought that was one of the worst opening sequences of all time.
Like when the movie first opens?
Yeah, I was like, what is this? This is not interesting.
It should have been more explosive.
Right, and there's nothing to it. Like, it not captured me. At the very beginning, I was like, what is this? This is weird. I don't feel for any of the characters. This is not exciting. I don't feel worried about the main character.
I wanted to talk some crap about the music, because this is one of the worst scored Star Wars movies I think ever. Nothing special. Like they do a little John Williams theme every once in a while to make the audience excited, but I still don't think it like hammered home like it was supposed to. It was weak. And I thought Rogue One had a weak score. This was bad. The score is so important for Star Wars.
You're talking about the movie. Just the way the movie looked, it was just so ugly. It was the worst looking movie I've seen. It's just color grading wise. It just looked really...
You know that intro scene when they're like underground with all those different characters? It's really heavily color graded, and I didn't like it. It's like a bluish.
And the way the action scenes are shot and edited, I thought it was like one of the worst shaky cam, jumbled things that I've ever seen. I never cared about the action scenes. It almost put me to sleep.
Unfortunately, I'm there with you, man. Like in the third act, like right before we got there, I was starting to doze off, and I was like, "Dang it! I can't believe in a Star Wars movie like this is happening." But like a loud sound happened, and then I was back in it, and it was an interesting last half. But there was a moment.
This is. I never thought I would say this, but watching the movie, I actually started to appreciate Rian Johnson and what he did in episode 8. No, seriously, because episode 8, with all, like, warts and all, it was a movie that you could watch and you could appreciate. There were parts that you didn't like, but this movie, there was very little to like.
You know, man, that's a good point. Even though I have a lot of problems with The Last Jedi, I have wanted to rewatch it. Maybe it was just to get some more insight into some of his choices. This one, I don't know if I would sit down and watch again. I pretty much got everything I needed to the first time.
Well,
we're talking a lot of negative about it.
Right, but let's just say something positive.
Okay. Just for the sake of it. No, universe building. Let's talk about universe building. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and there are some stuff that happens in it. We finally get to see some returning alien characters. I've watched all of Rebels and Clone Wars, and like I've read a comic or two about Star Wars since the Disney acquisition, and it's cool to see some of those seeds play out later on, like that they set early on. There are returning alien characters, because I know that these new movies are an opportunity for the creators to create new aliens and put them out there. But as someone who has been enveloped in this saga for a very long time, it's nice to see them show familiar things, like characters or like callbacks. So they mention other saga characters like Bosk.
I kind of feel like you're like really trying hard to find something good in it, because I thought
Donald Glover did pretty good. Not so much interested with new character choices for him, but I did think that he did a pretty good job. When they first introduced him, he did a voice, and I was like, "Is that Billy D?" So I do think he was channeling him pretty good.
Right.
I keep calling her Khaleesi. What's her name? She was Khaleesi.
Right.
She was
Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke. This is her first good movie that she's done. Because Terminator Genesis was a hot pile of garbage.
I mean, comparatively.
We did liken this to a garbage truck on fire earlier, but I thought she did okay too.
Well, if I want to say something positive, I would say the entire backstory between Han Solo and Chewbacca, I thought that was really good. That was well done.
It was an interesting take on how they had them meet.
Yeah.
I want to say that was probably the only interesting take on like how you have these two characters meet, because they had a lot of opportunities in this movie.
But at the same time, I thought Chewbacca was way better than Han Solo. I don't know why. I had a hard time believing the guy. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, let's say they want to make a movie about Brad Pitt, and then they cast you in it. I mean, you just don't look like Brad Pitt.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
I just didn't feel like he was right for the role. I mean, he was okay. He was passable, but it can be one of the worst miscasting of all times. But let's wrap it up.
Let's talk about some of the trouble behind the scenes before we move on.
Okay.
Obviously, this film had other directors lined up to do it, and then it was very public that they left, and then Ron Howard was brought in.
They were fired.
Could you tell the imprint of those previous directors who directed the Lego movie, Phil Lord and Chris Miller? Could you tell their handprints in this movie versus Ron Howard's, or was it a weird amalgamation put together, kind of like how Joss Whedon had to pull together the Justice League movie?
Well, what I could tell was that the movie was a mess. Like, it didn't have a touch. Like, I couldn't. It was like a corporate product that was made in a boardroom as opposed to a director who has a vision for the movie. So it was like, it's very bland. It's very soulless. That's the best way to
Soulless?
I mean, there was nothing to it. There
wasn't a whole lot of special to it, which is unfortunate.
Wow.
Did you have fun?
Well, that's the thing. The movie was over, and the guy who was sitting next to me, like without me asking, he was like, "Oh, this movie was way better than Rogue One." I was like, "Okay." So I guess people can enjoy watching this movie. I personally didn't. I personally was miserable.
It's funny because I heard groans, and I also heard cheers. So I think the Star Wars fan base is just like super divided nowadays. For a bunch of different reasons.
So final thoughts. What did you think? Did you like it?
No. I didn't like it. I try not to like give like scores on this show. I already said that I probably wouldn't rewatch it. I don't hate it, but it's just nothing special about it to make me go back and rewatch it. Kind of disappointing because I thought this one was going to be pretty good. Why do I say that at the beginning of every new Star Wars movie? I'm not trying to be that way. I'm just so goddamn disappointed every time.
It was very disappointing. It was. I mean, I noticed you were not laughing. You were not cheering. You were not like doing anything. You were just like It
was missing humor. That's all I wanted. I just wanted a little bit of humor. Like take this one a little not as seriously. And I think that had something to do with the tonal shakeup. Of the directors being switched and everything, but I'm ready to jump into spoilers.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, let me. Oh, this is what I do. Cue this. Oh, that's right. Dude, what? Oh, the spoiler monkeys, dude. They
What? They're not here?
They walked out.
Oh no!
Something about a lack of bananas. Yeah, I guess bring those guys in. Go ahead. Yeah, these guys are good. We have to pay them a different way though.
How about we do spoiler Wookiees?
Got something better.
Yeah.
Cue the spoiler Ewoks. Yeah, these guys are good.
Yeah.
Okay. Darth freaking Maul.
I thought that was like one of the coolest thing in the movie. He just showed up at the end of the movie in a little scene, and I guess that was
Does it make sense to you? Because I don't know how much like expanded universe stuff you've read, but he died in episode 1. Mm-hmm. So this movie is like 3 movies after that. So when you saw him, were you like, why is he have his legs again? And
I mean, technically, time-wise, they never classified it.
He's dead, like, but again, I don't know, like, what, because I watched the cartoon and everything, but he, like, flew down a hole, like, and he was cut in half.
Right.
But he's back, and he has legs, and he's got his double lightsaber again. Okay. But yeah, they explain all that in the cartoon, so it was kind of cool to see him thrown in the universe, but at the same time, I felt like, and this is what I wanted to say, all these new Star Wars movies, these, like, side stories, they cannot, like, it expresses the confidence that they have in them. They don't have a lot of confidence because they cannot do one of these movies without throwing in a character with a red lightsaber. Like, they always have to do it just to say, hey, this is what's going to make this movie interesting, in the last half.
And you know what? I don't have any problems
with it.
I mean,
it worked.
They did it in Rogue One, and I thought it worked, but I don't think it worked here because the movie was a mess.
If you think about it, there's not even a reason for him to ignite the lightsaber, and he does it anyway. It's because he's like, I want you all to fangirl, so I'm gonna light my lightsaber, and everybody does. Of course,
that was like out of nowhere, and like,
but yeah, there's no reason for him to do that.
There was one cool thing in the movie though. Han Solo shoots first.
That was like a big middle finger to George. I'm just glad they didn't say, I taught you to shoot first or something stupid like that.
Right.
But yeah, that was definitely implied at the end.
Honestly, I never cared about any of the characters. I mean, at the beginning, they were like on a robbery on a train, and then a couple of characters died, and I'm like, who are you?
Thandie Newton was one of the characters.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care. Die. Like,
yeah. I think I did. I saw you from like the corner of my eye, and you're like, huh? She's just like, this is my opportunity to blow myself up. Let's do it. And then she blows herself up.
Or Danny Glover. Danny Glover?
Donald. Donald. Danny
Donald Glover's has a like robot sidekick, and the robot dies. I was like, I don't care. I never actually had.
That made my eyes roll when he ran back out in the battlefield to pick up the pieces of the robot, and I was like, Lando wouldn't give a.
Right,
like
that was stupid. That was like
he would. I guess we should jump into that. So, so I'm all cool with inclusion and shoehorning in weird fetishes. Twi'leks, excuse me. But there was a recent article in USA Today. Lando likes to fuck toasters, apparently.
Oh, okay.
I do think that he was a very flirtatious character in the original trilogy, and so I can kind of see how that would play into it. But like
well, honestly, I didn't even see that because the movie was
he fucks his robot. Do you think Billy D ever fucked a can of Colt 45?
I don't claim you can have a better time with Colt 45 than without it. But why take chances?
The power of Colt 45. It works every time.
I kind of feel like most of the fans understand who Lando is. And I do think that they're trying to squeeze in these new things for already established characters. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm all for having, you know, new representation in the Star Wars universe because it is big enough for that.
Right.
It's just introduce a new, powerful, cool character to show the world that. Like, don't try to shoehorn these ideas into already established, beloved characters because then you're just going to upset the fan base. But I guess they like to do that.
But you know what? I mean, we were talking about The Last Jedi and how the movie made you mad. I was like, at least they did something to make you mad. This movie didn't even do a good job of, I mean, taking a direction even. It was just like such a half-assed thing to do. So it's just like, okay, like they decided to go the funny route, so they hired these two comedy directors, but then they changed their mind. They fire them, and then they hire Ron Howard, and he comes in and just like patches everything together.
So
and it's not funny, it's not dramatic. What is it?
Bland.
Like, who is this
super
for?
Bland. I think that Ron Howard's better than that. So I don't actually know what happened behind the scenes or like how much of the film he had to take over or mold to how he wanted it, or if like Kathleen Kennedy was over his shoulder saying just make something good enough. I don't know. But what I do know is the version that we saw, I think it would have benefited from a little more of that improv because it's not an important story like what's being told. So have fun with it, right? And like we don't need to necessarily know the backstory of Han Solo, so have fun with it. Like some of the essence, I could be totally wrong, but some of the essence I think of the previous directors is in that scene when Chewbacca's playing holochess with Beckett, and Chewie loses. This whole time we thought Chewbacca was good at the game, but he lost exactly the same way when R2 beats him in Episode 4. And Chewbacca hits the thing, you know, in anger, and it's implied that he's always sucked at that game. But I just thought, and it's quick editing too, so I felt like that was probably one of the scenes from the original directors. Imagine if the whole movie was quick like that and fast and maybe improvisational. I was reading that one of the reasons why the two directors were let go was because I think it was because Lawrence Kasdan and his son, this was supposed to be a project for him and his son, and they wrote it a certain way. This was supposed to be, I believe this was in the contract of Lawrence Kasdan doing Episode 7. He said, I want to be able to write my own movie with my son about Han Solo. And I feel like there was just, their script did not match up with the directors they chose, and the screenwriters are getting really pissed that these directors are spending all this time doing improv, which is and trying to be funny, which is what they're already used to doing and have experience. And then I just feel like they just pissed everybody off, and there's like all this rumors going behind the scenes.
Tell me about one action scene that you liked in this movie.
The train sequence was cool. Something that happened at the end of the movie, it's so forgettable now. Something happened. What was the big climax of the film?
They killed the bad guy.
No, but wasn't there like a chase scene in the Falcon? Am I imagining stuff?
I don't
at the
know.
end? I don't know. But I guess the train sequence at the beginning, there was nothing that super special, man. But I do want to say there probably was a chase sequence at the end of the movie in the Falcon, I want to say.
It was kind of in the middle of the movie.
But it wasn't through the like wormhole thing. Was it?
It was in the middle of the movie after they got the thing.
Yeah, the
See,
thing.
This is
the
how
thing.
exciting the movie was, so that's how much you remember. But
Well, I just wanted to know if you were happy with the way that things went, or do you feel like behind the scenes, like everyone that was in charge was like, this is messed up, but we got to put it out there?
I think if someone in the studio had the courage, they would have just shelved this movie. I think this is such a mess that it's gonna have a long-lasting effect on the whole Star Wars universe. I mean, it's not gonna be a good effect.
What about on the fandom? Because I don't know if you know, but like on the internet, people, I don't know if 100% of this is a thing, but there's like a boycott Solo, like hashtag, I think. And like it was people saying, we're not going to go see this movie or support Lucasfilm because they're so pissed about The Last Jedi.
I mean, they, I think they should go see this one.
You mentioned that the theater wasn't even sold out, which I thought was
the theater wasn't
interesting.
sold out. I think people should go see this one so they would feel better about The Last Jedi, because
People were calling it a palate cleanser. Do you agree with that?
I mean, if you like shit,
I feel like the palate
in your
doesn't
mouth,
exist
I mean,
anymore.
This was garbage, man. I mean, ultimately, this is the type of movie that people go see and then decide to like, okay, that's it. Let's say the last, what is it, Transformers. People were like, okay, we had enough. This is just not good. And I think we got to the point that it's just like there is nothing to it. It's just nostalgia, and like we're not even having a good product. It's just a bland thing that people will go pay and see, but ultimately they stop doing that, and at some point it will die down. So if I think we got to the Batman and Robin point.
Oh god, they're gonna have to reboot the entire Star Wars universe. Oh man, that'll be the day. Yeah, I did say early on that I didn't hate this movie. I'm disappointed because I hold Star Wars on like a higher level. I feel like if it was just a little bit more fun, just a little bit with a little more humor, I would have really walked away happier. But I'm not. I don't know if like future Star Wars will be any different. I don't know how this affects the fandom or the franchise, but they had an opportunity, and I just don't think that they quite made it.
Right.
So, yeah, kind of a downer episode.
Yeah.
But
well, thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe to our channel. We're gonna have more videos come.
Hopefully more
your
uplifting.
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we do like to end the show with a very heartfelt thank you to our spoiler. Spoiler Ewoks. Yes. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Until next time, we hope to catch you again. Keep on screen watching.